Well, that was nostalgic, wasn't it? Ah, jeez. Anyway, hello everybody. Welcome to the channel. If you're new here, my name is JoJo. I talk about seasonal anime content, and today I'm going to be talking specifically about YASAHIME Princess Half Demon Episode 1, Inuyasha Since Then. But before we get into it, I gotta let you guys know, if you want to help support this channel, if you want to see more videos from me, all that stuff, if you want to stay up to date, you gotta hit that sub button, and you gotta ring that bell. Seriously, YouTube's been acting very weird lately, and if you don't ring the bell, it seems to be ringing doom and gloom for your favorite content creators. So, if you haven't done so yet, hit subscribe and definitely hit the bell. So, with that said, we're going to talk a little bit about YASAHIME today, and I do mean, like, generally. I do want to talk, obviously, about the episode itself. That is definitely why we're here, but I also want to address my own personal history with Inuyasha, which I used to call it Inuyasha, because, you know, I was a dumb kid when I first saw the show, and that's how I thought it was pronounced, because I'm stupid. But yeah, Inuyasha and I have had a very interesting history. When I was growing up, I was one of those kids who would watch, like Pokemon and Digimon and Dragon Ball on TV, and I wouldn't know the difference between a cartoon and anime. And it wasn't until a certain show showed up on, like, late at night for a kid. I think this was at, like, maybe, like, 8 or 9. And I was like, ooh, I'm gonna stay up late and watch this cool show. And it was the first show that I noted as being different, right? Like, I was like, okay, this doesn't feel like a cartoon. It feels different. And now that I think about it, Dragon Ball feels different to other cartoons, you know? Like, and it was the moment that I realized that I was watching anime, and I started to connect the dots of, like, what the difference was. And that show that I stayed up late to watch was Inuyasha. And admittedly, because I was watching it on television, I saw most of the series out of order. Like, because for some reason, I'm Canadian, so I watched it on YTV. And for some reason, YTV would, like, jumble the order sometimes. It was in order, but every so often, they would, like, play episodes out of whack, which is, to me, even worse than the Dragon Ball Z problem, where they would just restart from Raditz every time they started to, like, get too close to, like, catching up to Funimation's dub, I guess. I don't know what the deal was, but I remember being a kid and either watching Inuyasha out of order or watching Dragon Ball Z restart every few weeks. It was infuriating, but you better believe that I was hyped up every single time to watch some Inuyasha and some Dragon Ball Z and some Digimon and some Pokemon. Ah, the halcyon days. But yes, I would stay up late to watch Inuyasha, and I would, like, be watching it with the volume really low and super close to the TV. And I remember I'd, like, sitting down, like, with my legs crossed, staring at the screen, and completely being enamored, not just with the show itself, although as a kid, I think this is when I started to like swords. It was just Sesshomaru and Inuyasha's swords. Like, I just thought they were super cool. It was also, like, I think, like, I had a big crush on Kagome as well. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. What matters is that I remember staying up super late, not just for the show, not just for the characters, specifically so I could hear the opening and the ending. My favorites being Change the World and Every Heart. Every Heart in particular, like, I love that song. I love every version of that song. It's like one of my favorite go-to karaoke songs if you're doing, like, anime music. And as for Change the World, oh my god, best opening of all time. Not really, but maybe. I remember being at Anime North one day, and we were watching Inuyasha, me and my friends, watching it in our hotel room and going like, man, this was the good old days. Like this OP is great, and man, like this show is great, but man, that OP slays. And then we went to the rave, and when we walked into the rave, this was a few years ago, but keep in mind, Inuyasha had been off, like, the radar for years. And we walked into the rave, and the first thing we hear is a remix of I Want to Change the World, and we're like, wow! Like, it's just so good. That opening in general has a lot of nostalgic tie for me. But Inuyasha itself has had a lot of ties to me. I feel like it never truly left. It would come up all the time, even with friends of mine who weren't really into anime. Like, you would hear them talk about stuff like Death Note, and then occasionally you'd hear mention of stuff like Dragon Ball and Inuyasha, because that was deemed as being still kind of cool. because this was back when anime wasn't cool, and now those same people are trying to pretend like they totally watched anime back then. They did not. But it's interesting to me how Inuyasha never really left. And so watching this episode, like this first episode of Yasahime, it felt sort of like coming home. And I should state, though, it's been a long time since I've been home. There are things that I absolutely, totally forgot. Like, legitimately forgot. And thank God for my main man, Axel Beats, on YouTube here. He's also on Twitter as well. This man, I'm gonna throw up a picture of him, and if he is not in the pinned comment, pester me to put him in the pinned comment, because I gotta put, like, what the game I'm playing is. It's Genshin, by the way. But also, I gotta shout out Axel, because this man be putting in so much work daily uploads of Inuyasha and Yasahime. Daily. You love to see it. The daily grind, speaking from experience, is very difficult. So the fact that this man has been out here putting out not only like these really cool like in-depth analysis of the different demons and character stuff and all this like just deep dives into Inuyasha, but also build up for Yasahime, as well as explaining things that you may have forgotten. Like, I totally forgot, like, the names of the swords and all, like certain demons, and I was like, oh yeah, I forgot that totally happened, and I remembered because I've been watching Axel's channel. So yeah, a huge shout out to Axel Beats. My God, if you're not subbed to him, you need to be, especially if you're into Yasahime. I can't stress enough. That's like you don't even got to sub to me. You should just go sub to Axel Beats, seriously. But that said, there's been a lot of build-up, is what I'm trying to say. There's a lot of hype. Like, Inuyasha is something that means a lot to a lot of people, so I was very nervous about how this was gonna go, and it was really good. Now, mind you, it was really good probably because this is mostly a throwback, right? As the episode says, it's Inuyasha since then. It's more so to catch you up to speed as to what happened to the gang after the final act. So it's basically just catching you up to like 6 months after the last episode, and Kagome is now living in the feudal era with Inuyasha and all the gang. Sango and Moroku still have their kids and all that. I mean, I don't know why they wouldn't, but they still do. They have their kids. Shippo is still Shippo. Sesshomaru has left Rin with Kaede, but like they're still close. Like, he keeps an eye on them and all that fun stuff. I will say, in this flashback, there was a distinct and like noticeable lack of Sesshomaru, Rin, and Jaken, which I thought was a little bit weird, given who the main character of the show is. I was kind of surprised by the lack of Sesshomaru, Rin, and Jaken, because let's be real, y'all know who her parents are, and that's uncomfortable. Listen, man, like, I like Toa already. I should stress, I love the new cast already. I shouldn't say I love them. I like them. They are starting on the right foot, but the Sesshomaru Rin thing, you know it's gonna happen, and it's so uncomfortable. It's like, why would you make that choice? But whatever. The OG gang basically has this encounter with this demon named Roothead, and it felt sort of like, again, like a nostalgia trip. I was like, yeah, like, I like that we're having this sort of monster of the week fight after the aftermath of like the whole Shikan Jewel adventure and all that stuff. It's you see Roothead like re-emerge, and he was apparently sealed away like forever ago by Kikyo, and he has returned, and he thinks that Kagome is Kikyo, and he thinks that she has the Shikan Jewel, so he is attacking villages near them in search of Kagome, who he believes to be Kikyo. And that is not only did that make me really sad, because I was like, oh, Kikyo, but it is really effective because it's showing that even after all this time, there are still like remnants of that adventure that are sort of left over, right? Like, there's still demons who are not aware that the Shikan Jewel is destroyed, so they're still coming after Kagome. And Kagome herself, by the way, has grown to be very much confident in her new role as a priestess, and I was legitimately happy to see how, like, all the skills she built up over the course of the series, they didn't just go away. Same goes for Sango as well. Like, Sango could have easily just become, like, the mom trope, but no, like, when Roothead shows up, she immediately just jumps back into action and is right back ready to kick some demon ass, and you love to see it. And I think the most interesting character, though, to me, of the main, like, OG cast, and the one who I legitimately think has changed the most, is Moroku. Moroku and Inuyasha start this episode by, well, they appear in the episode by trying to hunt down Roothead, who they notice has been like killing villagers and taking their heads. And you actually see what that looks like on some nearby like raiders or something. Like, basically just these bandits are running through the village, and they get attacked by Roothead, and he claims their head. And you see what it looks like, and though it isn't gory, it doesn't change the fact that I was like, oh gosh, like, it is brutal. I'm not gonna show it on screen because I don't feel like getting in trouble with YouTube's algorithm. That said, they go to investigate, and while Inuyasha is still badass, you know, he still has Tetsaiga and all that, like, he's still badass, Moroku is still awesome, right? He's still a monk. He's still got, like, all the moves that he used to have, but don't forget, the wind tunnel's gone. So that was, like, his big ace in the hole, and he even says in this episode that with it gone, he sometimes wishes he still had it. Like, in situations like this. So this isn't, like, the first time in 6 months that they're fighting a demon. Like, this is clearly, like, something that's happened since they've jumped over. And he literally states, like, sometimes he wishes he still had the wind tunnel. And I actually kind of felt this, like, tinge of, like, sadness, because I was like, damn, I don't like that Moroku feels like he is lesser now than Sango and Inuyasha and Kagome, because he's still strong. Like, he says, like, I'm just not really as cut out for this anymore. And it's like, no, man, you're still badass. Like, you're still awesome and cool. You can tell who my favorite character in the show was. But, like, yeah, I was like, no, man, you're still awesome. Like, what are you talking about? And it just, I don't know. It just, I felt like it was a good development for his character. And I thought the whole, like, interaction during the Roothead fight was great. I especially loved the Kagome and Inuyasha stuff as well. As a kid, you better believe that one of my first ships was Inuyasha and Kagome. I loved them. So seeing them now in their sort of, like, post-adventure states where they're both badass, like Inuyasha basically summoning galaxies to like send demons into, it's like you see them basically, like, being badass, right? Like, with, like, the powers they gained over the course of Final Act. And it's nice to see that even though they still have work to do, like, we see that Inuyasha still feels the need to hide Kikyo-type things from Kagome. Even though that is still a thing, even though they still have work to do, you see them, like, working together, and they make a great team. And we know that they've made a great team for a long time. They're still great. But not only that, you see how they've sort of come to rely on each other, and how their dynamic, while it's grown stronger, it's still the same dynamic you remember. Like, we even get, like, a sit boy, like that still happens. And you love to see it. But yeah, their dynamic just continued to be, like, it felt like we never skipped a beat. Like, it really felt like it had only been 6 months instead of years since the end of Inuyasha. It really did feel like it was only 6 months. Like, it felt like we just slipped right back, and these characters had not changed that much, but they had grown. Not that I shouldn't say that they haven't changed. It's that they've grown into characters that you recognize, but have, you know, weathered the storm and are a bit more mature than you might remember them to be. Moroku in particular, no pervy jokes. I was like, look, I get that you're a dad now, but that kind of surprises me. But yeah, like, they've basically matured a bit, but are still the characters you know. It's a tightrope to walk, but the show does it very well, I think. Lastly, we should probably talk about, you know, the YASAHIME crew instead of the Inuyasha crew like we've been doing. But I probably even put Inuyasha in the thumbnail, I'm going to be honest, because again, this episode isn't really about the YASAHIME crew. It's mostly just a nostalgia trip and getting you hyped up to see what characters like Towa are going to be doing in the future, right? You actually get to see Towa, Moroha, and Setsuna in the, I shouldn't say the present, in like the main like feudal era timeline. And they are, Towa's basically been captured by this advisor and this seemingly like he's not I don't think he said he was the shogun. I think he's like a daimyo or something. I don't remember the specific terms. I'm sorry. I know I'm terrible. Towa is like captured by some head of a family, and he is basically trying to interrogate her about what's going to happen in the future, like what's going to happen to the shogunate, like what's going to happen to blah blah blah. And of course Towa's like, I can't tell them because if I tell them it could alter the timeline. And I was like, huh? Like that's dramatic. I don't really remember this happening a lot previously. I don't remember if this ever happened previously. I could be wrong. Maybe it did. I don't really remember. I remember like a brief fight in like the modern world with where like Kagome's brother gets involved. What is that kid's name? Man, see, it's been too long. This is what I mean. Like, you'll have to forgive me if I forget certain characters' names. I have to go watch more Axel Beat videos, or maybe I just need to go rewatch Inuyasha. I'm probably gonna go rewatch Inuyasha and watch more Axel Beat videos. But yeah, it like the fact that we start by saying like the timeline is going to be ruptured. I'm like, whoa, we getting some wibbly wobbly timey wimey action up in here. That's interesting. And as for the character designs, I am going to save them, mostly because I feel like I've rambled too much already. I think I'll save the character design stuff for next week. We'll go maybe like character by character. So next week we'll dive into maybe Towa's design, depending on if Towa's the main character of next week, then maybe Moroha's, then maybe Setsuna's. I already kind of have a vague idea of what the specific color choices are meant to represent. Like Towa's clad in all white, you got Moroha clad in almost all red, you got Setsuna clad in a lot of blue. Like you can kind of get it, but we'll go more into their designs another day. But I have to say, I like them a lot. I do think that Yotsume, the like four-eyed owl demon thing, is probably going to play a part. I do agree with Axel Beats and some fan theories I saw that the Rainbow Pearls are actually going to be the OG crew that have been like sealed into these pearls. I wouldn't be surprised because I find it weird that they're just not here. So I wouldn't be surprised if like the whole point is to like get them back. Like if that's like the purpose of Yasahime is like to save the OG crew, their descendants have to like rise up and fight to save them. Like that'd be kind of interesting. But more importantly than anything, Naraku is not in this. Like I saw some people be like, maybe it's not. It would be weird. It's not him. Either way, I am excited for more Yasahime. We'll have to wait and see what happens next week. I did kind of just want to stay in the past, admittedly, but I am excited to jump forward with the Yasahime crew and see what happens from here. But with that said, everybody, that is going to wrap up my thoughts here. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, don't forget to boop that up snoot and share if you care. And of course, as always, I have to give a big thank you to the good folks in the T Squadron. Look at these beautiful people. Look at all these beautiful names. And hey, if you would like to join these beautiful people, there are now 2 ways to do so. The first is by hitting that Patreon link in the description. And the second, for just a wee bit more, is by hitting that join button right next to the sub button. It gets you some like a badge next to your name, some emotes to spam in the comments and premiere chats, as well as your name at the end of these videos. So if that sounds good to you, then go ahead, hit that join button. It is super helpful and is sincerely appreciated. So once again, a big thank you to the T Squadron. And on that note, everybody, I am going to go get ready for today's stream. Also linked in the description, twitch.tv/JoJo Talks So Much if you want to come hang out. It's always a good time. But yeah, I'm gonna go get ready for a stream. And maybe watch some Axel Beats videos. Again, like, I don't even think I've told him that I was going to shout him out in this video, so surprise. But yeah, seriously, go check him out. My man is an absolute legend. But regardless, on that note, I'm taking off. Yeah, I'll talk to you next time. And until then, you stay classy, AnyTube, and wash your dang hands.